It's actually 18. Persons who are actually intelligent and philosophically inclined should endeavor only for that purposeful end, which is not obtainable, even by wandering from the topmost planet Brahmaloka down to the lowest planet Patala. As far as happiness derived from sense enjoyment is concerned, it can be obtained automatically in course of time, just as in course of time we obtain miseries even though we do not desire them. So in other words, everybody is going to get what they are destined by their own previous karma. By good work only, see, by good work only as prescribed in the scriptures, one can obtain birth in a good family, opulence, good education, and good bodily features. We see also that even in this life, one obtains a good education or money by good work. So you see, even in this life, we get results due to pious activities. Similarly, in our next birth, we get such desirable positions only by good work in this life. So we execute good work in this life. Next life also we get benefited. Otherwise, it would not so happen. The two persons born in the same place at the same time are seen differently placed according to previous work. But all such material positions are impermanent. The positions in the topmost Brahmaloka and the lowest Patala are also changeable according to our own work. The philosophically inclined person must not be tempted by such changeable positions. He should try to get into the permanent life of bliss and knowledge, where he will not be forced to come back again to the miserable material world, either in this or that planet. Miseries and mixed happiness are two features of material life, and they're obtained in Brahmaloka and in other lokas also. They're obtained in the life of the demigods and also in the life of the dogs and hogs. The miseries and mixed happiness of all living beings are only of different degree and quality. But no one is free from the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease. Similarly, everyone has a destined happiness also. Similarly means that this is due to previous good work. Corresponding to the degree of good work that we have performed, to that degree we will attain happiness. No one can get more or less of these things simply by personal endeavors. That means if in this life I am scheduled to attain a certain amount of material happiness, I cannot substantially increase it. I can increase a little bit. Okay, I perform more pious activities. Then I may get a little bit, a small little, that's all. But I cannot substantially change it. If I have been miserly in a very terrible manner, then I'll be bound to be poor for a few lifetimes. So that time, I cannot suddenly just become exceptionally rich. Even if they are obtained, they can be lost again. And even if through some exalted pious activity I obtain it, still they can be lost again. So because they can be lost again and again and again, therefore they're considered to be useless. Ko varthapto bhajatam swadharmataha. In other words, arthakama that comes out of dharma is considered to be, from the perspective of eternity, useless, because they are destroyed by the force of time. As the material, as the milk product curd can cure milk indulgence, so service saturated with devotion to the Lord can cure the reactions of ordinary service. Ordinary service means material activity, pious activity. Just 1 minute, I just need to. 33. The threefold miseries of material existence cannot be mitigated simply by material activities. Such activities have to be spiritualized. Just as by fire, iron is made red hot, and thereby the action of fire begins. Similarly, the material conception of a thing is at once changed as soon as it is put into the service of the Lord. That is the secret of spiritual success. We should not try to lord it over the material nature, nor should we reject material things. The best way to make this bad use of a best bargain, the best way to make the best use of a bad bargain is to use everything in relation with the supreme spiritual being. In other words, when we execute karma mishra bhakti, sinlessly, offenselessly, with the desire to come to the point of pure bhakti, then that karma is not contaminating. So the varna dharma, ashrama dharma, stri dharma will not be contaminating. It will lead to hrid vishuddhi, purification of heart, which is acceptable in spiritual progress towards pure devotional service to Krishna. The necessary condition for such a change is to employ so-called matter in the service of the spirit. That is the way to treat our material disease and elevate ourselves to the spiritual plane where there is no misery, no lamentation, and no fear. When everything is thus employed in the service of the Lord, we can experience that there's nothing except the Supreme Brahman. Okay. Clear vision required to do welfare activities. First of all, one must desire to engage in welfare activities. That is very important. I never realized that we even need to say these things, that everybody is duty bound to do good to others. Material good, spiritual good, that's a different topic. First of all, every human being is expected to do good to others. It's a fact. That is a fact. One must do good to others. But if you want to do good to others properly, then you must know, you must have a clear vision that everyone should do good to others. It's mentioned by Prahlad Maharaj also. Shambhuyat. 7th canto or 5th canto. Wait, I got an idea. Anyway, I'll continue with this, but I'll take it up separately. Narada Rishi, being the best amongst the Vaishnavas, is compassionate toward such unfortunate victims of worthless literatures, and thus he advises Sri Vyasadeva to compose literature which is not only attractive, but can also actually bring liberation from all kinds of bondage. Sri Vyasadeva or his representatives are qualified because they're rightly trained to see things in true perspective. Srila Vyasadeva and his representatives are pure in thought due to their spiritual enlightenment, fixed in their vows due to their devotional service, and determined to deliver the fallen souls rotting in material activities. The fallen souls are, okay. Okay, that should be enough. The Bhagavad Gita is a spoken message of the Lord Himself recorded by Vyasadeva, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is the transcendental narration of the activities of the same Lord Krishna, which alone can satisfy the hankering desires of the living being for eternal peace and liberation from miseries. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is meant for all the living beings all over the universe for total liberation from all kinds of material bondage. For all kinds of material bondage. Great. I'll also do this search parallelly. Narada's serving the Bhaktivedanta shows results of serving pure devotees, 23 to 25. O Muni, in my past life, in the millennium, in the last millennium, I was born as the son of a certain maidservant engaged in the service of Brahmanas who were following the principles of Vedanta. When they were living together during the 4 months of the rainy season, I was engaged in their personal service. Although they were impartial by nature, those followers of the Vedanta blessed me with their causeless mercy. As far as I was concerned, I was self-controlled and had no attachment for sports, even though I was a boy. In addition, I was not naughty, and I did not speak more than required. Once only, by their permission, I ate remnants of their food, and by so doing, all my sins were at once eradicated. Thus, being engaged, I became purified in heart, and at that time, the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me. So this is how we serve the Bhaktivedantas. This is how we serve your devotees. And then finally, the very nature of the transcendentalist became attractive to me. By the association of pure devotees, okay, there are many things which hinder one from entering devotional service, but by the association of pure devotees, all these obstacles are removed. The neophyte devotee becomes practically enriched with the transcendental qualities of the pure devotee, which means attraction for the personality of God, its name, fame, quality, pastimes, etc. One minute, one minute, one minute. So, qualifications of a disciple exemplified by Sri Narada, 29. But first of all, there are qualifications of disciple here also. Self-control, no attachment for frivolous activities. That means spiritually useless activities. Not naughty, does not speak more than required. Menial service, hearing the attractive activities of Lord Krishna attentively, okay, here is everything together. Tasyaivam me anuraktasya. Prashitasya, Ataina Saha, Shraddadhanasya, Balasya, Dantasya, Anucharasya cha. I was very much attached to those sages. Anuraktasya. I was gentle in behavior. Prashitasya, obedient. Gentle means obedient. And all my sins were eradicated in their service. Atena Saha, freed from sins. In my heart, I had strong faith in them. Shraddadhanasya. I had subjugated the senses. Dantasya. And I was strictly following them with body and mind. Anucharasya cha. Despite him being a boy, he should seek the association of pure devotees, which means he should avoid the association of pseudo devotees. The prospective candidate must be plain and gentle. That means obedient to receive the instructions of such a pure devotee. One can get rid of all sins accumulated by mundane association, by associating with such pure devotees. He must faithfully serve the pure devotee with body and mind. He should be very much obedient and strictly follow the instructions. This is an important verse. All features are there. Revolution in impious lives of a misdirected civilization 11. The original expression is Janata Agha Viplavaha, creates a revolution in the sinful life of the people in general. That means it completely and absolutely destroys the extreme sinful activities of the mass, if the mass accepts it. And to get the mass to change, you need to get to the leaders. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there will be a change of heart and naturally the people in general will follow them. And Prabhupada himself demonstrated this principle. Wherever he went, he would try to meet the intellectuals, leaders, and so on. We should also be thinking about all this. We are members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We are also engaged in Brahmanical activities of studying, teaching, preaching, and so on. So we should be doing these things. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the world. If there's a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. Transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam will not only diminish the activities of the corrupt mind of the people in general, but also supply food for their hankering after reading some interesting literature. It is interesting that Prabhupada also, not only he was targeting the leaders, he was simultaneously targeting the mass through extensive prasadam distribution, Harinam kirtans in the street, as well as book distribution. Through books, we are injecting the spiritual message, pure spiritual message to the mass. That also we are doing. In the beginning, they may not like it because one suffering from jaundice is reluctant to take sugar candy. But we should know that sugar candy is the only remedy for jaundice. Similarly, let there be systematic propaganda for popularizing reading of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will act like sugar candy for the jaundice-like condition of sense gratification. When men have a taste for this literature, their hankering after other literatures which are catering poison to society will then automatically cease. Expert devotees find competent means to inject devotional service into dull brains. 16. Only a very expert personality, retired from the activities of material happiness. That means retired from the activities which lead to material happiness, deserves to understand this knowledge of spiritual values. And they are the persons who can show the ways of transcendental realization for those who are materially attached. Only the very expert who have almost retired from materialistic activities by culture of spiritual knowledge can be admitted to the study of this great science. So Srimad Bhagavatam begins when Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavad Gita ends. Bhagavad Gita ends with Sarvadharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. And Bhagavatam begins with Dharma Prajyata Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam. Vyasadeva is himself a personality expert in this science, and he is unattached to material enjoyment. Therefore, he is the right person to describe it. And Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, is the right person to receive it. Srimad Bhagavatam is the topmost theological science, and therefore it can react on the layman as medicinal doses. Because it contains the transcendental activities of the Lord, there's no difference between the Lord and the literature. It contains the transcendental activities of the Lord means it contains descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Lord. The expert devotees also can discover novel ways and means to convert the non-devotees in terms of particular time and circumstance. Devotional service is dynamic activity, and the expert devotees can find out competent means to inject it into the dull brains of the materialistic population. Such transcendental activities of the devotees for the service of the Lord can bring a new order of life to the foolish society of materialistic men. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his subsequent followers exhibited expert dexterity, intelligence, applied intelligence in this connection. By following the same method, one can bring the materialistic men of this age of quarrel into order for peaceful life and transcendental realization. However, I must point out that even though that is the situation, we need to examine whether a particular novel means is producing the result or not. Whether it is actually producing the same result that was produced by the liberated acharyas of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's line, or whether it's producing a different result. If it produces the same result, it is acceptable. If it is producing a different result, then it's a problem. Result in terms of Vairagya, Vidya, Bhakti, whether it is coming to the same conclusion or not, that is very important. And for that, you'll have to wait for at least 1 or 2 or 3 decades. Only then you will get to see. Okay, I think I found this. No, it's not here. Well, there's some other place. Okay. Convert hell of pandemonium to spiritual kingdom under the guidance of the pure devotee. Okay, how do we convert this hell when we can convince our congregation to give not less than 50% of their monetary income for the preaching mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Either they themselves utilize it for preaching or they give it to somebody that they trust. But that money has to be utilized. Pranayar arthayar dhiya vacha. That has to be done. Not only should we give the profit of our earning to this cause, but we must also arrange to preach this cult of devotion to others, because that is also one of the orders of the Lord. The scientific discoveries of the material world can also be equally engaged in carrying out his order. The attempt must go on to convert unwilling men to become his devotees. Lord Chaitanya has taught a very simple method in this connection. He has taught the lesson for preaching the transcendental message through singing, dancing, and refreshment. As such, 50% of our income may be spent for this purpose. In this fallen age of quarrel and dissension, if only the leading and wealthy persons of society agree to spend 50% of their income in the service of the Lord, as it is taught by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there is absolute certainty of converting this hell of pandemonium to the transcendental abode of the Lord. It is very important that all those of you who have some influence on others, if you're introducing Krishna consciousness, you introduce Krishna consciousness along with this concept of minimum 50% of your monetary income. It's not profit or savings. It is income. Within ISKCON, they have all these conceptions. 50% of profit, 50% of savings and all that. No, 50% of income. So we can directly, it depends how we introduce Krishna consciousness. Right from the beginning, we tell them that, this is how it is. This is the standard. So you start with 5%, 5%, 10%, 15%, like that, you increase until you come to 50%. Then we can help in preaching. Preaching requires money. Teaching does require money. It requires money. It requires support. It requires some full-time missionaries, pranay, arthai, dhiya. We require some intellectual congregation also, dhiya, vacha, and we just require supporters. The Pancharatra is more important than the Vedanta for the modern age. 38. This is Gatrika Mantra. The transcendental form of eternal bliss and knowledge can be experienced by our original spiritual senses, which can be revived by chanting of the holy mantras or transcendental sound representations. Such sound should be received from the transparent agency of the bona fide spiritual master, and the chanting may be practiced by the direction of the spiritual master. That will gradually lead us nearer to the Lord. This method of worship is recommended in the Pancharatrika system, which is both recognized and authorized. The Pancharatrika system has the most authorized codes for transcendental devotion service. Without the help of such codes, one cannot approach the Lord, certainly not by dry philosophical speculation. The Pancharatrika system is both practical and suitable for this age of quarrel. The Pancharatra is more important than the Vedanta for this modern age. Therefore, deity worship is very, very important. Deity worship is very, very important. Credit for serving Krishna is never lost. 17 to 19. Okay, wait, let me try to take it out from here. It's actually 17. It's never lost. It so happens sometimes that one surrenders himself under the service of the Lord by some temporary sentiment, and in the long run, due to so many other reasons, he falls down from the path of service by undesirable association. There are so many instances of this in the histories. Bharat Maharaj was obliged to take his birth as a stag due to his intimate attachment to a stag. He thought of this stag when he died, and as such, in the next birth, he became a stag, although he did not forget the incident of his previous birth. Similarly, Chitraketu also fell down due to his offenses at the feet of Shiva. In spite of this, in spite of all this, the stress is given here to surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Lord, even if there is a chance of falling down. Because even though one falls down from the prescribed duties of devotional service, you will never forget the lotus feet of the Lord. So there is a risk, but there is also the benefit. Once engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, one will continue the service in all circumstances. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that even a small quantity of devotional service can save one from the most dangerous position. There are many instances of such examples in history. Ajamil is one of them. Ajamil in his early life was a devotee, but in his youth he fell down. Still he was saved by the Lord at the end. In chapter 6, explain the process of Sadharma Pricha. The desire to inquire from the spiritual master. Okay, wait. He wanted to follow in Narada's footsteps in order to attain to the same perfect stage of life. This desire to inquire from the spiritual master is an essential factor to the progressive path. In other words, the desire to attain to the same perfect stage of life or this desire to inquire from the spiritual master about attaining the same perfect stage of life that he is in is an essential factor to the progressive path. List Vyasadev's questions to Narada. How did you pass your life after initiation? And how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? How is it that this subject matter, which happened prior to this day of Brahma, is still fresh in your memory, undisturbed by time? Even though time annihilates everything in due course. What a good question. Identify the import of Narada's mother being bitten by a serpent. Import. The import is this. It's a special mercy of the Lord who always desires benediction for his devotees. It might be also, it might also be this. Um, that is the way of dragging a sincere soul nearer to God. The poor boy was being looked after only by his affectionate mother, and yet the mother was taken from the world by the supreme will in order to put him completely at the mercy of the Lord. So Krishna does all kinds of things. What is the duty of a Parivrajaka mendicant? The duty of a mendicant, Parivrajaka to experience all varieties of God's creation by traveling alone through all forests, hills, towns, villages, etc., to gain faith in God and strength of mind. So, to gain faith in God, to gain strength of mind, as well as to enlighten the inhabitants with the message of God. Describe Narada's experience during meditation. As soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down from my eyes, and without delay, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna appeared on the lotus of my heart. When the mind is okay. At that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could see neither myself nor the Lord. What general principles can be drawn from Narada's experience of unsuccessful endeavors to see the form of the Lord a second time? Okay, before I forget, I've already discussed with the assessment coordinators, and I've come to the conclusion that we should do all the assessments on site in Mayapur only. No online assessments. So those who are not in Mayapur, when you come to Mayapur, you can do the assessments because they're finding it difficult to prevent cheating. That is just a headache. So just want to solve it one shot. Anyway, it's meant for Mayapur devotees. And those of you who are in satellite branches of ISKCON Mayapur, you will need to keep coming back to Mayapur again and again. So please organize your life in such a manner that you get time to study and appear for the assessments when you come to Mayapur. They will prepare separate versions of question paper, CBAs, and all that. And the other thing is the answer bank. If we have an answer bank, it will be helpful for everyone. Otherwise, there will always be controversy. Always they'll say, no, but I answered like this. Why he get cut off half mark? Why he cut off 1 mark? All these controversies will come. By just preparing the answer bank, you become more fixed and it will help you score better. Okay, so what general principles can be drawn from Narada's experience of unsuccessful endeavors to see the form of the Lord a second time, 18 to 20? So these general principles and all is as spiritual beings having an eternal relation with that transcendental form of the Lord, we are life after life searching after that form of the Lord, and we are not satisfied by any form of material appeasement. Narada Muni got a glimpse of that most desirable form, but having lost sight of it again, he became perturbed and stood up all of a sudden to search it out. What we desired life after life was obtained by Narada Muni, and losing sight of him again was certainly a great shock for him. There is no mechanical process to see the form of the Lord. It completely depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. We cannot demand the Lord to be present before our vision, just as we cannot demand the sun to rise whenever we like. The sun rises out of his own accord. So also the Lord is pleased to be present out of his causeless mercy. One should simply await the opportune moment and go on discharging his prescribed duty and devotion service of the Lord. What was Narada's material taint? This taint was this. First of all, where is the word taint used here?
Taint word is not used anywhere other in purport or in translation.
Tinge of materiality would be better. The taint refers to the tinge of materiality. Slightest tinge of material affection. So Narada Muni's apparent material tinge or taint was to search the audience of God in a lonely forest. Why did the Lord withdraw himself from the vision of Narada? 22. O virtuous one, you have only once seen my person, and this is just to increase your desire for me. Because the more you hanker for me, the more you will be freed from all material desires. Describe the life of a sincere devotee of the Lord as exemplified by Narada. 26. So this is the life of a sincere devotee. Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are all benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied and without being proud or envious. So the idea is that after initiation, he takes very seriously chanting of the glories of the Lord and traveling all over the world so that others may also hear the glories of the Lord. Such devotees have no desire for material gain. They are conducted by one single desire to go back to Godhead. And this is going to come to them at the end of their current life. Describe Narada's transcendental body and activities, 27 to 33 and 38. Take it up from here. His transcendental body. It's a transcendental body befitting an associate of the personality of Godhead. What are the verses? 27 to 33 and 38. He glorifies the activities of the personality of Godhead, and so doing, he himself takes pleasure and also enlivens all the distressed souls of the universe. What is the effect of hearing from such an authority as Narada? 56. The result of such hearing is detachment from worldliness, so much so that even a small boy could receive the death news of his mother, who was his only caretaker, as the blessed. Please turn off all your videos. This thing is so crazy. Okay. Okay, what was I looking at?
Question number
Um,
11. What is the effect of hearing from such a
what? What?
Question number 11 of chapter 6. What is the effect of
What is the
hearing
effect
from
of hearing from such an authority as Narada 36? A sincere urge for having an interview with the Lord was also granted to him, although it is not possible for anyone to see the Lord with mundane eyes. Analogies. We cannot demand the sun to rise whenever we like. The sun rises out of his own accord. So also the Lord is pleased to be present out of his causeless mercy. As a very rich man has no hankerings for small petty things, so also a devotee of Lord Krishna, who is guaranteed to pass on to the kingdom of God, where life is eternal, fully cognizant and blissful, naturally has no hankerings for petty material things, which are like dolls or shadows of the reality and are without permanent value. Narada met with death as lightning and illumination occur simultaneously. Even before death, a pure devotee has no material affection due to his body's being spiritualized like a red hot iron in contact with fire. The Lord at once becomes visible to the transcendental eyes of the pure devotee by reflecting himself on the mirror of his heart by spiritual television. The senses want some engagement. To check them artificially is no check at all, because as soon as there is some opportunity for enjoyment, the serpent-like senses will certainly take advantage of it. Okay, discussion topics. See the Lord's benediction in every step.
Prabhu, why don't we jump to chapter 7 closed book assessment? Because discussion topic are
No, but the
many.
unit is over with chapter 6.
Chapter 7.
What? That's not possible.
Four
Yeah, it
questions.
is.
Oh,
4 questions of chapter 7.
4
Up
questions.
to
What is 4 questions of chapter 7? Where did that come from?
First 4 question of chapter
first 4
7.
questions. Up to verse 11 or I think verse 12, something like that.
Verse 11, I think.
Yeah.
Why?
Up,
Why?
It is divided like that.
the unit
Where?
like that.
It's not divided like that. Look.
It is divided like that. Look in this handbook
Starting
itself.
here you see
You see, Unit 2
This is all
1340 to 1711.
here.
Then here also discussion topics 4 to 6 will come. 8 to 11 will come.
Yeah, so firstly do the closed book and then you can come to discussion topic later, because today is the last review class, and if the discussion topic, I mean, it should be discussed, but they have to write exam. We have to write exam also tomorrow.
Discussion topics are for open book.
Fine, open book can be submitted later also, because still now no question have been given. Is which question we have to write for open book for Unit 2.
Okay, but Unit 1 essays, did you get the chance to submit it, all of you?
I'll submit today. I asked Abhinav where I can submit.
Yeah, 5 days. I think I posted it some 4 days back. Anyway, let's get back to this. What did Srila Vyasadeva see in meditation? 4 to 6. What did he see? He saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with this external energy, which was under the Lord's full control. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the supreme truth. You know, what we actually require is we require a question bank with the answers, and for each question, we should In the question bank itself, we should specify how many marks it will be.
Yes, that will be good.
Why is the task of the illusory energy described as thankless? 5. The Lord does not desire that a living being be illusioned by the external energy. The external energy is aware of this fact, but still she accepts a thankless task of keeping the forgetful soul under illusion by her bewildering influence. The Lord does not interfere with the task of the illusory energy because such performances of the illusory energy are also necessary for reformation of the conditioned soul. An affectionate father does not like his children to be chastised by another agent, yet he puts his disobedient children under the custody of a severe man just to bring them to order. Explain both ways the conditioned souls are being reclaimed by the Lord. 5. Where is that? Both ways.
It could be in the last paragraph in the same purport, the same purport. Just search the word reclaim, it comes.
Both ways.
Yeah. It comes. Oh, a paragraph. No.
See, both ways.
Third last. Yeah, third last. Yes, here.
The conditioned souls are being reclaimed by the Lord both ways. Namely, by the process of punishment by the external energy of the Lord and by himself as a spiritual master within and without. So, as the internal Chaitya Guru, external Vartma Pradarshaka, Shiksha, Diksha Gurus, and by the process of punishment by the external energy of the Lord, the conditioned souls are being reclaimed by him. What did Vyasadeva do after receiving his vision? He compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the Supreme Truth. Tattvata Samhitam. Okay. But why like this?
Because we could not have covered this because there are so many discussion topics and time is just half an hour.
Okay, then I'll only take from the verses. That's all. See the Lord's benediction in every step, 6 to 10 and 36. 6 to 10. 6 to 10. I was the only son of my mother, who was not only a simple woman, but a maidservant as well. Since I was her only offspring, she had no other alternative for protection. She bound me with the tie of affection. She wanted to look after my maintenance properly, but because she was not independent, she was not able to do anything for me. The world is under the full control of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everyone is like a wooden doll in the hands of a puppet master. First of all, that realization itself came to him, Narada. When I was a mere child of 5 years, I lived in a Brahmana school I was dependent on my mother's affection and I had no experience of different lands. Once upon a time, my poor mother, when going out one night to milk a cow, was bitten on the leg by a serpent influenced by supreme time. So this is another thing that Narada Muni realized, influenced by supreme time. She had stepped on the serpent and the serpent bit her. I took this as a special mercy of the Lord, who always decides benediction for his devotees. And so thinking, I started for the north. To attain full spiritual realization. Freedom in devotion service. This is a very memorable report. 37. Okay, how do I go to this? The seed for this discussion is this word, yadrichikaha, wherever willing, which means at his free will. And therefore, Prabhupada brings up this entire concept of freedom. Every living being is anxious for full freedom because that is his transcendental nature. And this freedom is obtained only through the transcendental service of the Lord. Illusioned by the external energy, everyone thinks that he is free, but actually is bound up by the laws of nature. A conditioned soul cannot freely move from one place to another, even on this earth. And what to speak of moving from one planet to another? But a full-fledged free soul like Narada, always engaged in chanting the Lord's glory, is free to move not only on earth, but also in any part of the universe, as well as in any part of the spiritual sky. We can just imagine the extent and unlimitedness of this freedom, which is as good as that of the Supreme Lord. There is no reason or obligation for his traveling, and no one can stop him from his free movement. Similarly, the transcendental system of devotion service is also free. It may or may not develop in a particular person, even after he undergoes all the detailed formulas. Similarly, the association of the devotee is also free. One may be fortunate enough to have it, or one may not have it even after thousands of endeavors. Therefore, in all spheres of devotion service, freedom is the main pivot. Without freedom, there is no execution of devotion service. The freedom surrendered to the Lord does not mean that the devotee becomes dependent in every respect. To surrender unto the Lord through the transparent medium of the spiritual master is to attain complete freedom of life. So on one hand, it looks like the conditioned souls are free. And it looks like the liberated souls are bound. But the truth is the exact opposite. To inquire from the Guru is essential on the progressive path. What is this? This is Sadharma Pricha. Yes. Sadharma Pricha. It is important to inquire how we can also attain the same perfect stage of life. Duty of a Parivrajak Acharya. The duty. To gain faith in God, he has to experience all varieties of God's creation by traveling alone through all forests, hills, towns, villages, etc. to gain faith in God and strength of mind, as well as to enlighten the inhabitants with the message of God. The Padayatra program is designed by Prabhupada for this. The Lord appeared and disappeared to increase Narada's intense desire for him. 22. The more a person is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, the more he acquires a hankering for it. That is the transcendental nature of godly service. Material service has satiation, whereas spiritual service of the Lord has neither satiation nor end. One can go on increasing his hankerings for the loving transcendental service of the Lord, and yet he will not find satiation or end. By intense service of the Lord, one can experience the presence of the Lord transcendently. So he's hankering for the Lord because he wants to serve the Lord. According to personal capacity, distribute the message for others' welfare. 26. Their only business is to chant and remember the holy name, fame, and pastimes of the Lord, and according to personal capacity, to distribute the message for others' welfare without motive of material gain. Prabhupada also says elsewhere, Amaragya Guru Haiya Taro Ei Desh. So everybody's got one Ei Desh portion. It could be one's own family, it could be one's village, whatever. So according to one's personal capacity, it is a duty to share Krishna consciousness. We can no more demand to see the Lord than demand the sun to rise. There is no mechanical process to see the form of the Lord. It completely rises. It completely depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. We cannot demand the Lord to be present before our vision, just as we cannot demand the sun to rise whenever we like. The Lord is completely independent of all obligations. He can simply be bound up by the tie of unalloyed devotion, nor is he visible or perceivable by our material senses. When he pleases, being satisfied with the sincere attempt of devotion service by one depending completely on the mercy of the Lord, then he may be seen out of his own accord. Worshipping the Lord in the temple and preaching his glories outside the temple are both transcendental to material qualities. Thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, Bhakti Yoga. First of all, he engaged in Bhakti Yoga. He did not engage in Jnana Yoga, did not engage in Dhyana Yoga. Rather, he engaged in Bhakti Yoga. And certainly, he did not engage in Karma Yoga. He engaged in Bhakti Yoga. The mind was fixed without any tinge of materialism. His mind was without any tinge of materialism. So he engaged in Bhakti Yoga, but of the pure variety, not of the impure variety. Thus, he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. Then he could see Purusham Purnam, the absolute personality of Godhead. And he saw the Purusham Purnam with his external energy. But the external energy was under his full control. Mayam Chetat Apashrayam. She was away and under his full control. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. So it is due to this Maya Shakti that the Jivatma, Vyasadeva is, Suta Goswami is talking of the living entity in singular, but actually it refers to all the living entities together. So due to this Maya Shakti, which is under full control, the Jivatma, he is also transcendental to the three modes of material nature, like the absolute personality of Godhead. But the living entity thinks of himself as a material product. The absolute personality of Godhead does not think that he is a material product. The Jiva, the living entity, thinks that he is a material product because of this external energy. The absolute personality of Godhead is not influenced by external energy because she is under his full control. So the Jivatma undergoes the reactions of material miseries. The absolute personality of Godhead does not undergo the reactions of material miseries. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to him, the material miseries are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. It can be indirectly mitigated when you engage in various mixed forms of devotional service and then finally come to the point of direct mitigation. But one does not have to go through all that. One can directly engage in exclusive devotional service and directly mitigate. But the mass of people do not know this. Even the mass of people who have read the Vedic literatures given by Vyasadeva do not know this. And therefore, the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the supreme truth, which reveals these facts. Simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. And then what? Atmarama verse 10. Shukadeva Goswami's Bhagavatam study. So 8, 9, 10, 11. The great sage Vyasadeva, after compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam and revising it, taught it to his own son, Sri Shukadeva Goswami, who was already engaged in self-realization. So he revised the previous edition of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then he taught it to his own son, Shukadeva Goswami, who was already engaged in self-realization. There is also a similar verse in the 9th canto. The 9th canto. Where does that come? From Vyasadeva, I, Shukadeva Goswami, was born, and from him I studied this great work of literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. The incarnation of Godhead, Vyasadeva, rejecting his disciples headed by Paila, instructed Srimad Bhagavatam to me because I was free from all material desires. Hitva Swashishyan Paila Adhin. So, to teach Srimad Bhagavatam, he initially considered, who should I teach? Then in his mind, he rejected the idea that he should teach his disciples such as Paila. Shukadeva was also a disciple, but he decided to reject all these other disciples and teach Shukadeva Goswami. There's a reason for that. The reason for that is Mahyam Putraya. He taught it unto me, his son, Shantaya, who was truly controlled from sense gratification. And this Bhagavatam is described as Param Guhyam, the most confidential literature. So there's a reason why he taught Shukadeva Goswami. He was already engaged in self-realization and he was already peaceful, tranquil. Therefore, he taught him. Shri Shaunaka asked Suta Goswami, Shri Shukadeva Goswami was already on the path of self-realization and thus he was pleased with his own self. Why did he take the trouble to undergo the study of such a vast literature? 18,000 verses. Why did he enter into a study of a book which contained thousands of granthas? The answer, all different varieties of Atmaramas, Atmaramaha, cha, those who take pleasure in the Atma or spirit self. Munayaha, especially those established on the path of self-realization. Aparamascha Munayo. Nirgrantha. Nirgranthaha api, though. Nirgranthaha, freed from all kinds of material bondage. Kurvanti, desire to render, and they do render. Ahaitukim, unalloyed, unmotivated. Bhaktim, devotional service. Urukrame, unto the personality of Godhead. Itham bhuto guno harihi. Harihi, this means that the Lord, itham bhuto gunaha, possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. So the fact that Krishna is all attractive is brought about by saying that he can attract everyone. So everyone is brought under a single bracket. Till Shukadeva Goswami, son of Srila Vyasadeva, was not only transcendently powerful, he was also very dear to the devotees of the Lord. Thus he underwent the study of this great narration, Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay? This is also done to some extent. Okay, so we'll stop with that. There's a question here. How to see the Lord in the pages? Simple hearing is not all. One must realize the text with proper attention. What is pure and fearing? How to see the Lord in the pages? One has to be obedient to the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. When one is obedient to the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam in body, mind, and words, then he can see the Lord in the pages. Simple hearing is not all. One must realize the text with proper attention. One should give proper attention. One should not attentively hear. And then one can realize the teachings of the text. What is pure and fearing? One should not touch adharma to carry out his eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating activities. That is the point. It should be pure. Kritibi shushrushabhi takshanat. Kritibi. Okay? We'll stop with that.